Here, take this. Thank you. Take it away. So, nobody knows what to do. So we'll decide then. Well, Dharma said something about setting the scene. But you all know the scene anyway. Right? You're all great Pandits of Gita. Setting the scene, preface. It's written by the publisher, so it's not written by Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We'll let the universe decide. I think we should just start with verse number 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because we're here to hear what Krishna says.
Yeah.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Prabhakacharya, Darsi Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Asa Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Guru Parampara Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad-gītā as it is Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Prishabhana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaupatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, today we're starting Bhagavad-gītā is. So, setting the scene. This is written by the publishers. I think you all know it, but we'll just go through it quickly. Although widely published and read by itself, Bhagavad-gītā originally appears as an episode in the Mahābhārata, the epic Sanskrit history of the ancient world. The Mahābhārata tells of events leading up to the present age of Kali Yuga. It was at the beginning of this age, some 50 centuries ago, that Lord Kṛṣṇa spoke Bhagavad-gītā to his friend and devotee Arjuna. Their discourse, one of the greatest philosophical and religious dialogues known to man, took place just before the onset of war, a great fratricidal conflict between the 100 sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and the opposing side, their cousins, the Pāṇḍavas, or sons of Pāṇḍu. Dhṛtarāṣṭra and Pāṇḍu were brothers born in the Kuru dynasty, descending from King Bharata, the former ruler of the earth, from whom the name Mahābhārata derives. Because Dhṛtarāṣṭra, the elder brother, was born blind, the throne that otherwise would have been his was passed down to the younger brother Pāṇḍu. When Pāṇḍu died at an early age, his 5 children, Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, came under the care of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, who in effect became, for the time being, the king. Thus the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and those of Pāṇḍu grew up in the same royal household. Both were trained in the military arts by the expert Drona and counseled by the revered grandfather of the clan, Bhishma. Yet the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, especially the eldest Duryodhana, hated and envied the Pāṇḍavas. And the blind and weak-minded Dhṛtarāṣṭra wanted his own sons, not those of Pāṇḍu, to inherit the kingdom. Thus Duryodhana, with Dhṛtarāṣṭra's consent, plotted to kill the young sons of Pāṇḍu, and it was only by the careful protection of their uncle Vidura and their cousin Lord Kṛṣṇa that the Pāṇḍavas escaped the many attempts against their lives. Now Lord Kṛṣṇa was not an ordinary man, but the Supreme Godhead himself, who had descended to earth and was playing the role of a prince in a contemporary dynasty. In this role he was also the nephew of Pāṇḍu's wife Kunti, or Prita. Yeah. The mother of the Pāṇḍavas. So his father was Vasudeva, right? At least in the prison house. And Vasudeva is the brother of Kunti. So Kunti, that is how Krishna is related to the Pāṇḍavas as cousin. So both as a relative and as the eternal upholder of religion, Krishna favored the righteous sons of Pāṇḍu and protected them. Ultimately, however, the clever Duryodhana challenged the Pāṇḍavas to a gambling match. In the course of that fateful tournament, Duryodhana and his brothers took possession of Draupadi, the chaste and devoted wife of the Pāṇḍavas, and insultingly tried to strip her naked before the entire assembly of princes and kings. Krishna's divine intervention saved her, but the gambling, which was rigged, cheated the Pāṇḍavas of their kingdom and forced them into 13 years of exile. Upon returning from exile, the Pāṇḍavas rightly requested their kingdom from Duryodhana, who bluntly refused to yield it. Duty-bound as princes to serve in the public administration, the 5 Pāṇḍavas reduced their request to a mere 5 villages. But Duryodhana arrogantly replied that he wouldn't spare them enough land into which to drive a pin. Throughout all this, the Pāṇḍavas had been consistently tolerant and forbearing, but now war seemed inevitable. Nonetheless, as the princes of the worlds divided, some siding with the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, others with the Pāṇḍavas, Krishna himself took the role of messenger for the sons of Pāṇḍu and went to the court of Dhṛtarāṣṭra to plead for peace. When his pleas were refused, war was now certain. The Pāṇḍavas, men of the highest moral stature, recognized Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the impious sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra did not. Yet Krishna offered to enter the war according to the desire of the antagonists. As God, he would not personally fight, but whoever so desired might avail himself of Krishna's army, and the other side would have Krishna himself as an advisor and helper. Duryodhana, the political genius, snatched at Krishna's armed forces, while the Pāṇḍavas were equally eager to have Krishna himself. In this way, Krishna became the charioteer of Arjuna, taking upon himself to drive the fabled bowman's chariot. This brings to us the point at which Bhagavad-gītā begins, with the 2 armies arrayed ready for combat, and Dhṛtarāṣṭra anxiously inquiring of his secretary, what did they do? The scene is set with only the need for a brief note regarding this translation and commentary. The general pattern translators have followed in rendering Bhagavad-gītā into English has been to brush aside the person Krishna, to make room for their own concepts and philosophies. The history of the Mahābhārata is taken as quaint mythology, and Krishna becomes a poetic device for presenting the ideas of some anonymous genius, or at best, he becomes a minor historical personage. But the person of Krishna is both the goal and the substance of Bhagavad-gītā, so far as the Gita speaks of itself. This translation then, and the commentary that accompanies it, propose to direct the reader to Krishna rather than away from him. The Bhagavad-gītā thus becomes wholly consistent and comprehensible, since Krishna is the speaker of the Gita and its ultimate goal as well. Bhagavad-gītā, as it is, presents this great scripture in true terms, the publishers. So, I think you all know the story, right? It actually starts with King Santanu, and it even goes back further. King Santanu was an associate, Lord Brahma, But then there was some glancing between him and Ganga Devi in the court of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma saw this. He took offense to this. They were finding attraction between each other. So he cursed them to take birth there, down on the earth planet, to fulfill their attraction, King Santanu and Ganga Devi. So that happened, and then there were the 8 Vasus. They were laughing, so they were also cursed to take birth as the sons of Ganga Devi. And then they entreated Ganga Devi to, oh please, don't let us stay on the earth planet, on Bhumandala. It's horrible down there. It's the most gross part of the universe. People hardly living 100 years nowadays. It's the end of Dwapara Yuga. We don't want to stay down there. So Lord Brahma said we've got to take birth, and circumstances are such. But as soon as we're born, you throw us in the Ganga. So we can go back to Svargaloka. The Vasus, they encompass the residence of Indraloka on the top of Mount Meru. The 8 Vasus are the 5 gross elements: the mind, intelligence, the directions. So Ganga Devi married King Santanu. King Santanu was very much affectionate to her, and she made she made one promise, one condition: I'll marry you, but you can never question what I do. So that's a good introduction to Kali Yuga and women. Sorry, ladies. Maybe that's where it started, women not obeying their husband. Well, we won't get into that, because that's a Kali Yuga discussion. But anyway, Santanu, oh, I love you so much, I'll agree to anything. So all the Vasus, they were one by one born, and then Ganga Devi, as they were born, would go to the Ganga and throw them in the Ganga, and they would go back to Svargaloka. They were the Vasus after all. They're the devotees. Bhishma was born last. He is Akula, or different names. Vasu. Huh? Devabrata, but he also has a name as one of the 8 Vasus. Yeah. Right? And he is one of the 8 Vasus. He is the water element. He is governing over the water element within the universe. So very powerful. Son of Ganga, governing over the water element. So Santanu couldn't, he wanted sons. So he said, oh dear, this is not good. You want to kill the 8th son? No, stop it, please. Then Ganga said, well, you've broken the contract. You're telling me what to do. You think you're my husband? Who do you think you are? We have the vote now. Oh, not again.
Hello.
I'll phone you in 1 hour. It's impossible to talk now. Thank you.
No.
It's Amazon again. I tell them never deliver on Friday, and they always deliver on Friday. This is the same thing in Kali Yuga. Everyone is disagreeing. They just wait until I'm giving class. I'm sure they're on the internet checking. Anyway, so of course Ganga Devi gave, okay, Bhishma, but I'm going now. So Santanu was broken-hearted, right? He was broken-hearted. Then he married Satyavati, right? Yeah. Huh? After Ganga Devi, He married. So then it goes on. So Bhishma, he was the protagonist in the Mahābhārata. If you know the story of Bhishma Dev, then you know everything about the Mahābhārata runs upon his storyline. So basically, as they say, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, right? Even in small families, people are fighting for position. This is Kali Yuga, this is the material world. People want three things. They want money, dhanam, status, position, power, and they want sex life. So they are, in this material world, people in the material consciousness are very anxious for these things, and they try to control events around them to acquire these things. Dhanam, janam, sundarim. And so this was the rulership of Bhumandala or Mahābhārata. In those days, 5,000 years ago, the world was run from Bharatvash, India, what is called India now. Now they want to change it back to Bharat, right? So, and it was run through, as was mentioned in the a whole series of priests, subordinates. Because there are four classes of men, Krishna explains. There's the Sudras. So the Sudras, their political system, it tends to be communistic. The Vaishyas, they tend to be capitalistic, Vanijam, they're into trading. And then the Kshatriya government type class, martial type people, they're into kingship and nobility and position and power. Ishwara Bhav, Krishna says. They want to control. And the Brahmins, they're detached. They're interested in Brahman, realizing Atato Brahma Jignas, realize Krishna. That's what they want. So they're detached from it. So always amongst the Kshatriya class, like we see now in the world, especially now at this present time, everyone is fighting. Because it doesn't matter how much dhanam they have, they want status, right? In the divine and demoniac nature, Krishna says, he explains the demoniac nature, he says, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. He is my enemy and I have killed him. That is my enemy and I will kill that person. There is none so... Generally, especially in Kali Yuga, if you have money, people give you status. Oh, he's got money, he must be right. And then once they have money, then sex life and so on and so forth. So that's what's happening throughout human history. First get money, then you'll have status and followers, then you can have sex life. So people are manipulating circumstances to increase. So in the rulership of the whole Bhumandala, you can imagine, these are big stakes. This is a big maneuver. So Dhṛtarāṣṭra, he was one of the sons, the cousin, brother of Pāṇḍu, born out of... Sorry?
Vyasadeva.
Yeah, Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva impregnated the three wives of Vichittravira, right? Ambika, Ambikali, Balika.
No, that is different.
No, that was before.
That is different.
Anyway, the point is that he was born blind because the maid that was going to have union with him was in terrible fear. He was an ascetic, the Brahminical type. He was completely renounced. He had matted locks, and he was not dressed in nice clothes. And she was made to have union with him to continue the line, because Vichittravira had died. He died off without issue. And he was the son of Vidura. Maidservant's son. Yeah. Anyway, so because the maidservant closed her eyes, this made the child blind. Because the mood of conception between the man and woman, the mood that they are generating in their union, attracts a similar spirit soul. So now in Kali Yuga, everyone's getting drunk, taking drugs, and all the children, they're into drugs and drunkenness and intoxicant. They like that, and they like all this. Now music has just become like animal sounds. That shows what kind of people are listening. Previously, music was melodic. There was such a thing as rhythm and beauty and higher emotions. Now it's all, I'm a big man and I'm going to kill you. So, this is Kali Yuga, you can tell by the music. So, God help the world, they're all killing each other. But one interesting thing is that Krishna actually is in the Gita. It's very interesting. Because nowadays, modern Manu Dharma is very prevalent. This is monotheistic. The Vedas are monotheistic, but they're also explain that there are demigods that are empowered by the monotheistic Supreme Lord. But they say, these man-made tribal religions, they say. And so they have lots of things like, you should be meek and humble and this, and people, sometimes educated people, they have debates on YouTube. Is religion a force for peace in the world, or is it a force for war in the world? Like this, they cannot figure it out. So the man-made religions, they say, you should be peaceful, you should turn the other cheek. But actually, that is not what Krishna tells Arjuna. Arjuna is told, you must fight Arjuna. But he's not really told to fight. He's told to fight why? Because that's his duty. That's the point. He was trying to do somebody else's duty, go to the forest and meditate, but he's a Kshatriya. So the message of the Bhagavad-gītā is not to go and fight. The message of the Bhagavad-gītā is that you're in this material world and conflict is inevitable, and if you're a Kshatriya, you should do your duty. Especially if you're fighting on behalf of Yudhisthira. We already know that Duryodhana, as it was touched upon here, he was trying to kill all the Pāṇḍavas from childhood. So he was, actually it's explained there in the Shastra, that his expansion of Kali, not Kali. And so therefore, he's especially attuned to achieving status and power. I have heard it said, it's been said to me, that when he was in parade, he eventually took the kingdom for a short time, he would not have a palanquin over his head or an umbrella, because he said, I'm so great, nothing should be above my head. Is that correct? Is that a true story? I haven't read that in the Mahābhārata, but so that's really wacky. If you're that obsessed with an umbrella, it means you're mentally unbalanced. But that's the material energy, it makes you a fool. So anyway, Duryodhana, and also there's an interesting story in the Mahābhārata, that during the battle and all the conflict, Duryodhana actually was having second thoughts. So he was thinking, maybe I should just give them some portion, or I should stop the fight. This is terrible what's going on. Maybe I should make peace. He was the student of Balaram. Balaram taught him the club. So he had some good influence. So he was starting to feel, maybe this is all stupid, fighting and killing everyone. And then it's explained he went to sleep. And took rest in the afternoon. And in his dream, he was taken to the lower planetary systems of the Rakshasas. And the Rakshasas sat him down and said, you cannot give up this battle. You are our front man. You have taken birth on Bhumandala, and you are to bring in the reign of materialism, of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the age of the Rakshasas. We have a right, just like Satya Yuga, the Paramahamsas have a right to the Bhumandala because that is their age. But in Kali Yuga it's the age of the Rakshasas, so the Rakshasas have a right. They have a right to exist as they see fit. So they love conflict and power and status. So they put all this to Duryodhana. You cannot become a peacenik and just say, oh, we want to be peaceful and live in harmony and turn the other cheek. No, you are the plan. So this is very interesting because nowadays people look at political events and they just see the gross thing. This political leader, this political ideologue, this political leader is fighting this one, this is... But they, because of the atheism that's taught in all the schools nowadays, they have no idea of the subtle energy. How, according to activity and desire, certain subtle beings accumulate around a living entity. Just like if you're a drunkard, like drunkards, they go mad eventually. They take drink, they go start talking to themselves. They may attack their family members even. Why? And they think, why did I do that? It's because according to your activities and your desire, you will attract subtle beings. And they will try to influence you. Just like if you sit down with 3 people, they will try to influence you if they have a motivation. So the Rakshasas are like that. They are circling around Duryodhana saying, hey, you can't become peaceful now. You have to fight. And Duryodhana woke up and he had renewed vigor to conquer the Pāṇḍavas. Of course he didn't. Because, and this is interesting to note, when we look at the political system, now there's a lot of, in the political world, we want a new world order, we want this, we want that, we want this. And they think they can achieve it by their own activities. So later on in the Gita, Krishna says, Kartaham iti manyate, that the living entity in the material world thinks he's the doer. And therefore, if he does things properly and expertly, he can achieve his goal. He thinks. And that there is no restraint on me. There is no counterbalance. Because the world is just matter and energy and physical principles. So if I can use my intelligence and energy and friendship with certain parties, I can achieve my goals. And they do not understand that actually reality comes from subtle to gross. Spiritual platform, mental platform, consciousness, gross platform. That's to put it simply. They just think, I'm free. Because as soon as you start saying, oh, there's a Supreme Lord, then, and you start saying there's punishment and reward according to your activities, it means I'm not God, right? So the materialist, the Kali Yuga people, the Rakshasas, they want to be God. They want to have the unrestrained position. So they're always wanting new world order, new political system, new United Nations, this way, that way. They want to gain power. But they are not free to do so outside the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Because the Supreme Lord, he is the controller. And we see in the Gita, Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhanam vanashaya duskritam dharmasam stapanadaya. That I destroy the demons. So it's interesting to note, Krishna depopulated the world of all the demons. In the Bhagavatam it explains that the devotees, they were looking at Bhumandala, they went to Lord Brahma and they said, there is a lot of evil on the earth. These Kshatriyas, they're not looking after the people, they're evil. So now you have to take birth and sort things out. So Brahma, you have to ask for an incarnation. Lord Brahma went to the Kshirodakshayi ocean and Vishnu said, okay, I'll appear as Krishna. And then Paritranaya Sadhanam, he destroyed the demoniac forces and re-established Yudhisthira. But the nature of this material world, especially in Kali Yuga, is that the demoniac forces always come back. It's like it's like you may make your cloth clean, but it'll become dirty. So Krishna, he has to come again and again to re-establish pure bhakti, because in the material world people use everything, religion, devotion, philosophy, for their own good. But the message of the Bhagavad-gītā is that it should be used for the sake of the Supreme. That is a completely different mentality. Like I say, in the material world, everyone is selfish, trying to get wealth, position, sex life, status, continue forever. They try to achieve that, but they're in the wrong environment. And they are selfishly acting, so they are under the laws of karma. So inevitably all they do is end up going to hell because of unregulated activities. But Krishna is explaining in the Gita this condition of trying to control and enjoy. This is ruining you. This is ruining you. Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavatam explains that as soon as you try to enjoy in the material world, the condition of suffering happens. Just like if somebody's drinking alcohol. As soon as he starts to drink alcohol, he's trying to enjoy. But what he is doing is he's making himself stupid. He's going to become sick. He's going to become hungover. His health will be poor. So inevitably there's an opposite effect. When one tries to enjoy in the material world, the opposite comes to varying degrees. So the material world has to be seen for what it is, and the people, their consciousness in the material for what it is. And the devotee in sadhana, he meditates on the spiritual world and the consciousness of the people there. Gopi Bhata Kamalayo Dasa Das Anadas. So we see the great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, the Madhavendra Puri, Jagadananda Pandit, Vedavyas. They are all explaining that in the spiritual world everyone is unselfish. Nobody is self-motivated. Everyone is motivated by an attitude of service to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And they are completely liberated from this egotism, false egotism. I'm the body, I've got to maintain this body, I've got to gain knowledge, I've got to gain happiness in this material world. They don't have that in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world everyone is Atmaram. There's that verse in the Bhagavatam, right? Atmaramas tamuniyo kuvanti ahoitikim. Let me see. This is a famous verse. Let me see if we can get it. And it explains the consciousness of the liberated soul. Atmaram chamuneo. Yeah, 176. Yeah, this is a famous verse. Lord Chaitanya gave a big explanation with many interpretations. Sudo Vacha, Admaramas Chamanayo, Negranta api ukrame, Kurvanti hoitikim bhaktim itam bhuta guno ahari. All different varieties of Atmaramas, those that take pleasure in the Atma, or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental activities and qualities, and therefore can attract everyone, included liberated souls. So this is the important point, that the spiritually positioned person is free from this selfishness. He's perfectly satisfied. He's Atmaram. And in this liberated state, he's attracted to serving Krishna. It's a spontaneous attraction. So that state of consciousness we have to meditate upon. When we write Nam Guna Rupa Leela, the Leela of Krishna, we should understand that when Krishna and the gopis are meeting, when Mother Yashoda is serving Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the servants, those in Shantaras predominantly in Goloka, they are all full of this seva bhav. They are all full of this attitude of service, of giving. Whereas in the spiritual world, everyone is in this service of self-aggrandizement. I must be careful, I must survive. I'm surrounded by a bad environment, bad people. My own mind is troubling me. But that is completely absent in the spiritual world. That everyone there is spontaneously in bliss. Bliss, there are emotions, happiness, distress, loss, and so on. But the substance of the emotions is bliss. The substance of emotions in this world is anxiety. Just like you see children, they grow up and they're always anxious. They hear a loud noise, oh mummy, oh where's this, where's my friend, where's this? Everyone is in anxiety. So we take this environment, this material environment, especially Kali Yuga, of conflict and hatred and selfishness and bad manners and cheating and lying and stealing, as normal, as something I have to maneuver within to survive. But that is not the spiritual world. And that is not the impetus of Krishna. That is not the impetus of Yudhisthira Maharaj. Yudhisthira Maharaj wanted to serve Krishna by becoming king, because he knew Krishna. That's what Krishna wanted. But in the material world, everyone is using everybody else for their own self-aggrandizement. So we kill that artificial imposition on our nature by becoming Krishna conscious. And we become Krishna conscious by hearing the Leela of the great devotees, right? By hearing. We should always remember that. This state of unlimited bliss is naturally within the heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhaka Banai. How is it awoken? Shravanadi Sudha Chitte Karide Udai. By Navavida Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, etc. One awakens, Sudha Chitte, the consciousness becomes purified. And then the real nature, and then Krishna Prem arises. And then the Swarup is an expression of the Krishna Prem. When we look at the world, and we think, look, it's getting more horrible every day. People are fighting and killing. Now I'm in a good circumstance. I'm in Vrindavan. I have Maha Mantra. I have Bhagavad-gītā. I have so many books. So let me study Shravanam Kirtanam, hear and chant the pastimes of Krishna, and try and conceive those pastimes in their as they are, as it is. You see? And then when we study, the unselfish lives of the Goswamis, of the great devotees, of the residents of Vrindavan, this evokes our own nature. So this is the process, very important. So therefore it's very important to study the pastimes of Krishna. In fact, it's essential. But they have to be understood for what they are, unselfish. That Krishna, when the gopis are dashing out to see Krishna, when Krishna is seeing the gopis trying to serve them, to fulfill their desire. The gopis are trying to fulfill Krishna's desire. Mother Yashoda is trying to fulfill Krishna's desire. She's not trying to, oh, I've got the best son in the village. She's trying to do things for Krishna. So that environment we can become absorbed in by the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because that is the question there, the beginning. The sages act. Oh, Krishna came, he gave Dharma in the form of Gita, he gave so many instruction and example. Now what can we do now? He's gone. This was the question asked to Sutta Goswami in the Naimisharanya. And how they were all gathered there to hear. So the answer was Krishna Swadharma Pagate Dharma Jnana Devisaha Klonastadrishamesha Paranaka Dunodada. Yes, all those good things, religiosity, truthfulness and kindness and good behavior, Krishna brought them with his devotees. But they're not missing now. They are present in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is Rasa Shastra. So it develops the rasa, the relationship, the mellows, the mood between Krishna and his devotees. It starts in the first canto, Queen Kunti, and then first steps in God realization, second canto, Dhruva Maharaj, Jadvarat, Prahlad Maharaj, Ram Leela. It's all about Krishna and his devotees. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, on the basis of the knowledge that we gain from Gita, we can understand the unselfishness of the spiritual world. And that awakens our unselfish nature. You understand? Just like if you mix with criminals in this material world, you tend to be erroneous in your behavior. But if you mix with sadhus, you try to discipline your behavior in that way. So we can associate with Krishna and the pure devotees through the Bhagavatam, through the Gita, through the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if we do this in a regulated way, listening to lectures, Prabhupada, good devotees every day, then this awakens our nature. Shravanadi Sudachitte Karide Udai. But it's best to be performed in knowledge. Yes, this selfishness is not good. So now let me read Bhagavatam, let me read Srimad Bhagavatam. I have a vision of the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And that should be our focus, right? Because everyone is focused on something. Materialist is focused on his plans. So we have to have a plan too, because Krishna is not static, he is ecstatic. We are not static, impersonal beings, we are ecstatic beings. So we have to use that activity, that tendency to activity in the right direction by realizing transcendence. If we realize transcendence, transcendence is there. This is the point. There are many, many religions in Kali Yuga saying, oh, we're the only way. But if you read their books, the history of their books, they're all concocted. And they pretend, oh, it's the word of God and this and that. But then they fight and kill each other over it. But the Bhagavad-gītā, the Vedic literature, is without peer. There's nothing like the Mahābhārata, the Vedas. There's no knowledge. Now, like you say, India, there's some movement to call it Bharat. Actually, I said that to some political leaders about 1980. You know that? I said, look, you got rid of the British, but why are you calling yourselves Indian? I said that. You should call the country Bharat. This was a BJP follower. The BJP were just becoming strong 40 years ago. And I said, look, it's all a mentality. Indian means indigenous. Indian, it comes from, like you have Adivasis. So the word, in English, the word Indian means indigenous to that country. That means the natural native population. Yeah. So I said, look, if you want to get rid of the British, you have to get rid of this word India. I told him. This was in the 80s. I said, you can't do that. I said, why can't you do that? You've already been beaten. You're a big political leader, and you want to keep the British name of India. Why don't call it Bharat? The land of Maharaj Bharat, right? So, maybe that idea got into the anyway. I'm not saying I was the cause of it, but I remember 80 years ago saying that. You've got to get rid of this name, because it is. And you see, the thing is, when the British came here, this is a little bit of history. They wanted, the British went over, it wasn't really the British, it was the Rothschilds, the Jewish banking family. They owned the East India Company. They opened up in Madras. And they wanted to make business. That was the British idea, to make business. So they came across India, and India was still Vedically active. So they thought, how can we get more influence? We have to knock down the Vedic influence. So they were actually holding, you may not know, they were holding competitions in England, asking scholars and philosophers to come forward with the best way to knock down the Vedic culture, to say that the Vedas are all nonsense. Yeah. So that when they are giving up that culture, then we can get them to work in factories and produce food and give us cotton, and we'll become rich, we'll build railroads and this and that. So they actually, this is historical fact. So the one that won over was, oh my God. Full marks for persistence. Nothing for intelligence. What am I saying? So the one that they settled on was the idea that the Vedas were mythology. That's the idea. They settled on that. We will teach the Indians that the Vedas are just storybooks. Yeah. Of course, their books are mythology. They're all man-made literature. They're not recorded by Vedavyas. They are just, concoctions, time and circumstance, tribal literature. But the Vedas is actually divinely revealed. Dharmam tu shakshak bhagavat panidam. So they settled on that idea. So now India, because of Prabhupada, and that was Prabhupada's plan, to wake up the Indians, to take Krishna consciousness out of India, then to bring it back and wake up India. And that's what's happening now. The temple is too crowded. We need 5 more temples in Vrindavan. It's, everywhere in India our temples are flourishing. Why? Because we chant Hare Krishna. And that is the Yuga Dharma. And when people chant Hare Krishna, they wake up spiritually. It's as simple as that, right? If somebody doesn't chant, they don't wake up. It's Kali Yuga. The name is empowered. So now everyone is thinking, hey, all over the world, everyone is talking about Guru, Vipassana, meditation, breathing exercises. Ayurvedic medicine is going all over the world, right? Why? Because this pall, this cover that the British put over the Vedic culture is falling away. Because you'll find that. I worked in academia. And in academia, they talk about, the first cities were in Sumeria. Right? This is what they say, 3,000 years ago or something. Before that, they were all hunter-gatherers living in caves and, raping women to have children. And of course, the women were obedient then. But they got hit with a club then. That was 5,000 years ago. There was no civilization, nothing. And how do they pass aside everything that is east of the Middle East? They do that by saying it's all mythology, it's all stories. But you can't do that now. People are realizing, because of Prabhupada is translated as it is, he's giving spiritual knowledge, people are seeing the value of this. And the Indians are seeing the value of this. And this is very important, because yes, we want to make a Krishna conscious society worldwide, but you can't have that if the place of origin of the Vedas, which is Bharat, is not following. You understand? When the Indians are following the Vedas, this gives a good foundation for the respect of the Vedas. So the British came, they killed the respect for the Vedas by saying it's all stories, it's all mythology. So what we have to do now, we have to kill that idea. No, the Mahābhārata, the Bhagavad-gītā is not mythology. Krishna was there 5,000 years ago. And here is the recording of his conversation. And the Yudhisthira, and you can go to Kurukshetra. And the temples in India, they are not 500 years ago. They say things like that. The Bhagavatam, it was written following the Bible 800 years ago. They say all sorts of ridiculous ideas that they're always changing. But once people realize that the basis of human culture is the Vedas, then you can counter Kali Yuga. Because Kali Yuga came in when the Vedas were dismissed, you see. Because the Vedas regulate humanity into a pious way that they can live spiritually. But now people are educated in nonsense, and the result is hedonism. You know what hedonism means? Hedonism means there's no moral structure. I can do what I like. So I can eat, sleep, do whatever I like. I don't have any moral structure. So that takes everyone to hell. But with the Vedas, hey, be careful. There's the law of karma. And here's the goal of life, to go to the spiritual world. So India is waking up, and it will wake up more and more, despite our internal struggles or any problems, because basically what do? We just tell people chant Hare Krishna and read Bhagavatam. And if people do that, all the inebrities that are inevitably there are always going to be problems in the material world, it's the nature. But as long as people have the idea, chant Hare Krishna and study the Vedas, all the problems are overcome, right? We shouldn't expect people in the material world to act perfectly as devotees or this or that, because it's the material world. People are in this difficult condition. So India is waking up, and that was Prabhupada's plan. You can see it. Sometimes people think, what is the next step for the Hare Krishna movement after Srila Prabhupada? Well, you're seeing it in front of your eyes. India, like now, what happened in Ayodhya? Ramlal is there. Ramlal is there, right? So suddenly the Hindus are waking up. So the next thing we have to get rid of is the word No, we have to get that word. The next word we have to get rid of? Hindu. That is also, that's not coming from the Vedas, that's coming from the Muslims. Hindu means somebody living across the river from the Sindhu. Actually, the Vedic religion is Sanatan Dhan. Varnashram, social system, and above that, Sanatan Dham. The followers of the Veda are also called Sanatanists, right? The followers of that which is Sanatan, yes, eternal. So this is the thing. The Vedas, the Gita, the Leela of Lord Chaitanya, the great devotees, that is the eternal energy. So human life means to detune from the material world. We have to keep this body alive somehow or other, and tune into the transcendental world. And how do you do that? Studying the Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, is there anything more simple than that? Can any government or gunda or police officer say, don't chant Hare Krishna? It's impossible. Huh? It's impossible, right? You cannot stop people chanting, talking. You must say, we're going to follow your internet activity. We're going to follow your bank account. We're going to follow this. But we can't stop you chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So we're in a victory role. Krishna consciousness will be victorious. It will wipe out the materialism, just like Duryodhana was defeated. And so, any inebrities or problems here and there, we should not worry about that. Even if they're within ourselves, we cannot follow properly. But what we just do is, we just keep perseverance, right? We'll finish with this sloka. You've been very attentive. But this is one of my slokas. Remember I said it last week? You should read these last 5 slokas. Yes. Remember this sloka. If you want to be a top level devotee, this is what Krishna says to Lord Brahma. Pramanas tad sadacharais tadabhyasya nirantaram bodhayan atma atmanam bhaktim api uptamam labet. The highest devotion, which we want, is in the heart. You don't get it from the restaurant or down the road. It's there in your soul. It's your very nature. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization. So you're always trying, right? Atato Brahma Jignas. I want to realize Brahman. When I realize Krishna, I will realize my relationship with Krishna. And that is the goal. So the constant desire I want to realize, and with the help of 3 things. Anybody remember those 3 things? Who's a good student? Pramana. What does that mean? Scriptural evidence. That means the Vedas. So Krishna explains the first thing, if you want to become Krishna conscious, is script pramana, right? Pramanas tad sadacharais. Scriptural evidence, the Vedas. India was knocked down when the Vedas was knocked down. India is the custodian of transcendental knowledge. So it was knocked down out of its position and became confused. Once the Vedas are re-established, and the Vedas should be taught in the schools instead of this Marxism and atheism. Once the Vedas are taught, the Dashmula of the Vedas, this is the start. That's the first one, number 1. Number 2, anyone knows a little Sanskrit? Sadacharais. Yes, sadachar. Good behavior, sad. Right? So that means you study pramana, you study the Vedas, Srimad, Bhagavatam, Gita, particularly in Kali Yuga, And then you try to behave nicely. Regulative principle. Don't become a liar, a cheat, or a monger, or a rumour monger. Just be nice and kind. That's the main thing. Be good to other people. And be good to yourself. And then the third thing, nirantaram. Yes, persevere. Niranta means always. But in this context, we're saying, let's say, constantly, nirantam, constantly, by practice, abhyasya, constant practice. Yes. So it is that constant practice of those two things, Vedic knowledge and good behavior, and to do it constantly. Don't worry if you're not a pure devotee, you have problems, your mind, you want to sleep one day, you're sick, you get angry, never mind. You continue, you just persevere. And that perseverance purchases the mercy of Krishna and the mercy of the acharyas. So what are those three things? The highest devotion is attained by three slow degrees by Vedas, pramana, sadachara, and yes, nirantaram, constantly trying. Even if you have a problem, even if you go away like 2 weeks, or if you're a neophyte, I'm not going to chant for a week, I'm too tired. Then you get back up on the horse. You fall off the horse, you get back up. And you don't become neurotic about the past, right? You just think, I'm going to study this. And Shankaracharya, he said 3 things. He said, somebody who wants to be successful in self-realization should practice 3 things. Every day he should read at least 1 line of Shastra. Just 1 line, he said. Second thing is he should chant 1 name of the Hare Krishna, of Govinda, Gopinath. And the third thing is he should perform charity. Yajna dana tapasa. You should always do charity. So charity doesn't mean just money, but it means you should be kind. You should be generous to somebody. You should have an open heart. That is kindness. That is sadachar. The sadhu, what is the sadhu? He's unselfish, he's considerate of others. So those 3 things. Again, the same thing. You'll see this throughout all the teachings, whichever the sadhu is. He says, read the Shastra 1 line, chant 1 name, and be kind to somebody. Buy a packet of biscuits for the dog in the street. Cost you 5 rupees. And it'll purify your heart. 3 things. And then you'll go back to Godhead. Because, just like we were saying, Duryodhana, he had the Rakshasas in his subtle body, pushing him here and there, right? If you do those things, if you study the Shastra, you chant Chindamani, what is it? At the beginning of Bhagavatam, I'm getting going again, it says, if the holy name of the Lord, of Govinda, drives away all ghosts. It says there in the beginning. Drive away. Yeah, it drives away. So you chant Hare Krishna, all the bad elements in your subtle body become chased off, and you read the Shastra, and you practice kindness, forgiveness, and good behavior. And what do you get? You go back to Godhead and have eternal life. Is that a good idea? Is it a good idea? Is it a good idea? Yes, hey, you're all great souls. You all got this idea. You're all great souls. You stay in this material world, what happens? Oh, I become the new world order. I become the number 1 in the world. And then one day... Because what does Krishna say in the Gita? Mrityu sarva Harasyaham. The ruler of this world is time and death. Right? Time and death. They rule this world. So you may have a new world order in your idea, but actually the new world order is the old world order. It's Ravana's idea. I'll be God. It's Hiranyaksha's idea. I'll be the number one. It's Kumbhakarna's idea, but he was sleeping on it. So that is the old world order. Materialistic people try to control and enjoy. Right? So the devotee takes shelter of Krishna and things. I'm not going to play that game. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So thank you very much for coming to class, paying kind attention. We had a good talk. Next week we'll also carry on in the same way. Because you're all great learned devotees, here I am talking, actually I should be listening to you. So really, Krishna Kata means everyone puts in their own idea, right, into the kitchery. So, yes. So Bhagavad-gītā. Thank you all very much. See you next week. Take care now. Remember the 3 things.